When I married Ryan, I knew I was stepping into a new chapter of my life, one that came with responsibilities beyond just being a wife. I was becoming a stepmother to his 19-year-old son, Ethan. Blended families always came with challenges, but I was determined to make it work. Ryan and I had been together for almost 2 years before we got married, and in that time, I had tried to bond with Ethan. He was polite but distant, never rude, but never overly warm either. I understood why. His mother had passed away when he was young, and he had spent most of his life with just his dad. Now, I was the new person in their world, and I didn't expect Ethan to embrace me overnight. Despite his reserved nature, Ethan was a good kid, kind, responsible, and independent. He had just started community college and was saving up to get his own place in the next year or so. Ryan and I supported him, but we also let him live his life on his own terms. Everything was going smoothly until Ryan got a job opportunity that required him to be away for 3 months. He worked in construction management, and this was a huge project that could lead to a major promotion. It was too good to pass up. "I'm going to miss you," I told him the night before he left, wrapping my arms around him. "I'll miss you too," Ryan said, kissing my forehead. "Take care of Ethan while I'm gone. I know he's old enough to take care of himself, but still, just keep an eye on him." "I will," I promised. At the time, I had no idea how much things were about to change. The first few weeks after Ryan left were uneventful. Ethan and I settled into a quiet routine, mostly keeping to ourselves. He had his classes and part-time job, and I stayed busy with work and household responsibilities. We would occasionally share a meal together, but beyond that, we mostly existed in the same house without much interaction. Then the storm hit. It was one of the worst winter storms in years. Heavy snowfall and freezing rain knocked out power in our entire neighborhood. The temperature inside the house dropped quickly, and the backup generator failed. I tried to bundle up under layers of blankets, but it wasn't enough. The cold seeped into my bones, making sleep nearly impossible. A soft knock on my bedroom door startled me. "Laura?" Ethan's voice was quiet but clear. "Come in," I said, pulling the blankets tighter around me. Ethan stepped inside, wearing sweatpants and a thick hoodie, his hands tucked into the front pocket. "Are you okay?" "I'm freezing," I admitted. "The heat's been out for hours, and this blanket isn't helping much." "My room is even worse," he said. "The windows let in too much draft." I hesitated for only a moment before patting the empty side of the bed. "Come on, body heat is better than nothing." Ethan looked unsure, but after a second, he nodded and climbed under the blankets, keeping a respectable distance. At first, it was awkward. We both lay stiffly on opposite sides of the bed, wrapped in layers, not saying a word. But as the night went on, the cold became unbearable. Slowly, without saying anything, we inched closer. I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, and I let out a relieved sigh. "Much better," I murmured. "Yeah," Ethan said softly. "This storm is brutal." We talked for a while, just light conversation about the weather, his classes, and my work. It was the longest conversation we had ever had that wasn't just small talk. I found myself surprised by how easy it was to talk to him. The next morning, the power was still out, and the house was even colder. It was obvious that the storm had caused serious damage to the grid, and there was no telling when things would be restored. Ethan and I spent the day bundled up in blankets, moving as little as possible to conserve warmth. That night, when it was time for bed, we didn't even question it. He joined me again, and we huddled together for warmth. The first few nights were all about survival. But after a while, something changed. We started talking more, really talking. Ethan opened up in a way he never had before. He told me about his mother, how he had struggled growing up without her, and how hard it had been to accept someone new in his dad's life. "I never hated you," he admitted one night. "I just didn't know how to let you in." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I never wanted to replace her. I just wanted to be here for you, in whatever way you needed. He looked at me then, his blue eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite place. I know that now. That was the moment everything shifted. The storm passed, and eventually the power was restored. But something between us had changed. We no longer avoided each other. Instead, we found ourselves talking more, sharing meals together, and even watching movies on the couch. It felt like we had finally crossed the invisible wall that had been between us for so long. When Ryan came back, everything was back to normal, or at least it seemed that way. But Ethan and I knew better. We had formed a bond that couldn't be undone. Ryan never suspected anything unusual because, in truth, nothing inappropriate had happened. But Ethan and I shared a quiet understanding. Those nights spent talking in the dark, sharing warmth, and breaking down the barriers between us had changed us both. I never expected that sharing my bed space with my stepson during a winter storm would be the thing that finally made us a family. But sometimes, the most unexpected situations bring people closer in ways they never imagined.